Hi, in this video I would like to show you a demo and simple tutorial of the Kotlinium framework, the one I was recently working on. If you want to get the concept and the whole idea better, then this video is for you. What you see right now is the simple summary of the test report that the Kotlinium generated for us, and that's the summary we will try to achieve today in a quick demo. So let's move to the IntelliJ, and here what you see is the test written using Kotlinium. Um, so that's the body of the whole test. Obviously, it's annotated with tests because it's based on JUnit 5. It also uses some features that we will talk about later. Um, what's important in the Kotlinium framework is that all tests are written using the DSL mode that is presented here. So for each page object, we create a set of functions that we can use later, and those functions are presented on the summary. So we can use some parameters on them, or just some static values like here. Um, so what you see right now is the simple two steps on a hierarchy main page, the website we're going to try to automate today. This is what it looks like right now. So we have the welcome to the internet header, right? So this is what we're trying to check, and then we click on an example of the form authenticator. So let's proceed to that. As you can see, that's some simple login page we're going to try to automate today. We have a username, password, inputs, and a login button. Now, what we want to do is to pass the username Tom Smith and the password, which is super secret password, exclamation mark, and try to log in. So let us inspect the page better so we can write tests straight off. Right, so let me inspect the page and see what the inputs are, and then let's try to locate their IDs or something what can help us to locate them. As you can see, the input for username has an ID username, so that's rather easy. What about password? Password is also has also an ID of the password, so this is straightforward for us. Right, so what about the login button? It does not have an ID, but we can surely use some XPath on it, so let's try it now. Let's write some XPath that will search for a button. Now, what we want to do is search it type, probably. Uh, as you know, you can use any XPath on it. It's just the most intuitive for me is the type uh, parameter of this view. So just try to locate it by the type submit. Okay, it shows up. Good. We'll use it later. So having those three elements, let us proceed and create the login page object, right? So it should be located in the pages, because that's the way the Kotlinium framework structure is. So let's go ahead to the pages directory and create a new Kotlin class. We'll call it login page. Okay, cool. Now, what's the important thing is that we need to extend our page object class, which holds a lot of methods, which will help us develop tests better. Now, how do we define the web elements that we're gonna use in tests? Surely we just want them private, so they are not available outside of the login page. So we'll not just confuse them with other web elements, you know. So let us create those three web elements we've talked about later, which is the username field, the password field, and the login button. First two web elements can be located by ID, as we've shown before. So let's create those right now. We're gonna find them by ID, and this is the first class that Kotlinium framework has to offer. This is a Kotlin delegate, um, which creates web element based on its ID. As I remember, it's simply username, right? Let's continue and create a password field, which is located by ID of password. Good. Now we still need that submit button, which is located by this XPath. So just copy it and create our login button, and it's going to be located by XPath. Good. We have those three web elements. What else do we want to do? Surely we want to put the Tom Smith username into the input field, also the password. Click on login. I probably copied it with a space. Let's log in. Okay, we see some alert on the top of the window. As you can see, it's some div with ID of flash. That's a good hint. So let us go back to our project and create the alert web element as well. Oh, sorry, just a typo. So let's call it login alert, right? And this will be located by, let's try ID, right? ID of a flash. Surely you can use an XPath on it as well. It's just up to you, probably, but most of the times when we have access to that ID, we should use it because it's faster than XPath. But yeah, it's up to you. What else can we do with Kotlinium framework? Um, so basically, all of the web elements we create has access rule, which is it is displayed by default. So each web element is accessed only if it is displayed. So what it gives us the advantage that we do not have necessarily just wait for them implicitly in our code. So there's no need to just type wait for login alert before click. We just can click on it and all the magic is done on the backstage, so to speak. But also we can just define our own access rule. If you're not satisfied with just simple check for it is displayed or we want to extend it, we can simply put it in here in the braces. And so here we're just gonna define our own access rule for login alert, which is gonna be just it is displayed, but also we want to get we want to be sure that username field and password field are not empty, so they are just filled in with some values. Well, it's just the simple example of the access rule. It doesn't necessarily have to be written this way, but I just want to show you the possibilities that Kotlin framework gives us. So let's just go ahead and try to get value of those inputs. That's how you do it in Selenium, apparently. So we want to get that, and we want to be sure that it is not empty, right? Same thing with password field. So let's go back here and change it to password field, right? So now this check will gonna this is gonna perform three checks, right? So before we can click on the login, sorry, that's not here. This is not supposed to be here, rather here. So what is gonna happen before Selenium clicks on the login button? It's gonna check if it is displayed, if username field is not empty, and if password field is not empty. So it will not be clicked by any chance before those three checks are true. Good. We have those 4 web elements that will be needed to automate that step. So let's get started with the functions. So let's create a function for filling username. Just call it fill username, right? So and it's gonna just take some string. Now what we're gonna do is simply send keys to the username field with the name provided. Cool. Next method is gonna be the same just for the password field. So let's just paste it down here and name it fill password with the parameter of the password. Okay, cool. We have those 2 methods. Let's continue and just try to create a method for the login button to be clicked. Let's call it press login button. Okay, and it's gonna click on the login button. Simple as that. As you can see, we don't need any weights inside. It's all done by the Kotlinium framework. How it's done? Well, let's see. It's probably not that hard to understand. Well, besides some annotations that we're going to talk about later, this line of code is important. So before we get the value of the web element, we just wait for it here. So even though we don't need to type it down, it's done automatically. So once the wait is done, we just return the web element. Okay. We have those 3 methods. Now let's try to implement them in the demo set. So it's gonna be a part of our tests. What we need to do is to create a robot for them, just like the Heroku main page. So what it does, it accepts some set of functions of the Heroku main page. It creates the object of the Heroku main page and applies those functions to it. So basically, the Heroku main page is a function which accepts some set of functions. So it's a higher order function. It creates an object and invokes those methods on the object. Simple as that. But what it gives us is that DSL-like style of writing tests without any external frameworks or plugins. And I believe it's pretty readable even for non-technical people. But anyway, let's just proceed with the test development. Let's create a similar robot to the Heroku main page, but this time it's gonna be just login page with a function that accepts login page function, right? Returns unit. And here we're just gonna create our login page object and apply those functions to it. Cool. Now we have this robot, and let's try to apply it here. So in login page, we're gonna do what? We're gonna do this fill username for whom for Tom Smith, right? And its password is this. So let's just fill password of this value without space. Cool. Now we have the test that clicks on example of form authentication. Then once on that page, fill username Tom Smith, fill password, and also we need to click on the button. How do I name that again? It's press login button. Okay. Now, if you don't remember what then the name of the function is, you can also just look up it using control space. This will give you all methods and all functions that login page class has access to. As you can see, there's the press login button, fill password and username methods that we defined before, but also there are some fields and methods that are part of some object or anything, any class that our login page extends. Also, like toString is just regular method for an object in Java, but most importantly, we have access to those three methods that we just defined. Cool. Oh, I forgot to apply it. Now, having this test designed, let's try to run it. Now, how do I run the test? We can simply click on the run demo set. It's just the simplest way to do it, but it will skip mm, all the properties that we can define. Oh, also, as speaking of properties, we can have driver properties, which is properties of our driver, but also the Kotlinium properties. So what are Kotlinium properties? Well, first of all, we can just define the source of the WebDriver we're using. It's basically the Chrome driver file in our resources. Next, we can just define the type of a WebDriver we're using. By default, it's Chrome, but the Kotlinium also supports Firefox and Opera. Why it doesn't support Safari or Internet Explorer? It's simple as that. Those web drivers does not support properties provided using string array. They just have some sort of builders that could not be unified with other web drivers. So Firefox, Opera, and Chrome has those property setters by string arrays in common. So that's why I support only those three web drivers by now. Next, we have environment property, which is basically pointing to the environment or just the website we're testing. In our case, it's Internet Heroku app. We just seen before, nothing new. Next, screenshot strategy. We can define when we want to take the screenshots. So now it's set to always, but it also can do screenshots only on fail or never. Uh, Basically, this option never can be replaced by any string. So if you just provide here some lorem ipsum, it also will be treated as never. Kotlinium static. We're gonna talk about it later, probably after the test execution, because I want to show it on a real time usage example. Now we have also tag annotation, which is part of JUnit 5. As I said, Kotlinium framework is designed for being fully compatible with JUnit 5. Basing on the time you're watching this video, the project may have grown, or so there will be more options available. So what is tag annotation? By using tag annotation, we can just define what set of tests we want to run. Let us say that we have like 3 demo sets, like regression set or smoke tests, that we are going to annotate with different tag, right? So now using Maven, also, if you're using Windows like me and you didn't specify path for Maven in your Windows settings, then that's the place where you can run your goals. Simply open the Maven plugin and click on that icon. So execute Maven, and you can just run any Maven command with some arguments, as you can see. In recent, I have this clean verify with argument tests for demo. What it means, it's gonna run only tests tagged with demo. How do you specify what tag to run? You can just check it in JUnit 5 documentations because it's fully JUnit 5. I have not developed it, but it's generally good, well documented, so it won't be problematic. Now, Okay, let's run this Maven script, Maven goal, and let's see what will be the result of the test. Good, the test is running. Oh, I've made some mistake. Probably I used the wrong field in the login page. Let's see. Yeah. Um, let's quickly change that to the password field. Yeah, so password field send keys. Now it looks good. Let's rerun the test. Simple error, nothing special. Good. It looks like it works. Um, so Kotlinium generated as the summary available here. Let's watch it, how it looks. It opened it in a new tab. So what it basically it's just some ugly UI I've developed in 2 days probably. Um, but if you're willing to help me, or if I find some more time, I'll probably make it more modern because now it looks like it's from 2007 or 5, whatever. Uh, so here's the test, our test set, and here are all the test cases we have in that set. For now, we have only one test case, which is user can log into the app, right? So here is all the steps we've done so far. So we verified the header, we selected the form authentication, sorry. We filled the username with Tom Smith, filled password with super secret password, and press logged in. Each step has its own screenshot provided with it and some timestamp. Um, okay. Also, there's some Jira defined, so whenever we click, we should be redirected to our Jira. So that's also some cool trick. But as I said, the UI is pretty simple, to put it in nice words. Um, so the reports folder, how it's created. So for each test set, there's some JSON file created. So let's look it up. So there is some Jira ID provided, test case name, description. It all comes from the annotations above the test. Um, okay, let us put it here. Let us proceed here. So there's also steps list, which covers basically all the steps we've done in this test case. So as you see, there's some verified header, some parameters added to the step, screenshot path as well, timestamp when the test was executed, display name, test passed. Yeah. So display name is very helpful, as you can see here. Uh, let's compare the first step and the second step. As you can see, in the first step, there was no display name annotation provided, so after each test step name, there are properties listed at the end of the name of the step, but sometimes that's just ain't gonna do work for us, and we want to make it more human friendly, more readable by non-technical users. In this case, we can use the annotation display name, which creates this effect, and we just gonna try to do it with this fill username Tom Smith and fill password methods. So let us go back to the login page and add some annotation on those fill username. So we're gonna annotate with display name. Oh, this not the one from the JUnit5. Probably should change the name of it. So that's the Kotlinium display name annotation. And now let's just name it more properly. So let's say user types some string, right, to username field. Now what it does is it takes some string with those person s values, character sets, right? And for each character set, person s is gonna be replaced with each parameters. So let's say we had two properties here, name and some role, then those two parameters would be injected into this string and then be presented on the summary report. But for now, let's just stay, let us keep just one parameter, which is name, all right, and just do the same for password. So username, user types some string to password field, whatever. Okay, now let's just quickly rerun this and see what effect it will give us. Also, if we don't want to wait until the window pops up, basically it it makes us it makes it impossible to work on our tests when the tests are running. We can make them run in the background. Basically, define driver properties available in resources file. So it accepts some properties available for each web driver, right? In my case, I'm using Google Chrome, and this is just a set of properties that can be used on a Google Chrome web driver. What is important here is the headless mode. So we want to run our tests in headless, making them running in the background without actually running Google Chrome UI visible to the tester. So let us see the new demo set that was just generated for us. And yeah, as you can see, the steps now changed their display name to user type Tom Smith to username field, user type super secret password to password field. Now, it's very easy to do, but gives some amazing effects on the final summary report. Now, let us continue and focus on the remaining static annotation, which is configurable using Kotlinium properties file or Maven Go parameter, and it can be used here. So if I were to use the static annotation on some field, what it will do, it will just evaluate its value, the web element once, and then will just return the same object over and over again. Why it's cool? Well, it's cool because it's not so time consuming evaluating the same web element again. It will just base on some cached value and return it immediately after the access rule is fulfilled. Now, it's also dangerous to use, so to speak, because in some cases you may end up with stale element reference because some web element may just refresh and you don't even notice it, or it simply refreshes and loses the last reference to it. That's when the stale reference exception will be thrown. So use it carefully, but for some very static websites like this Heroku app, for instance, we can just try to speed up our tests and use the static property set to true, what it will do, what it will do to the tests, it will just uh, treat all web elements as if they were annotated with the static annotation. So this definitely will speed up the test execution, but it's also dangerous for its stale reference exceptions. So you should definitely try it out, but if the results are like errors, a lot of errors, then just drop it, don't use it. I'm not sure if it's um, good idea to use it, but you can try it. So the next annotation we can use on an object is the invisible. What it does is that it defines that the object should not use its access rule. So it will be returned immediately after evaluated. It will not wait until it is displayed or anything. Well, we can also use the invisible annotation on it, and it will just ignore that big chunk of code we've just written. Um, but it's not advisable. Well, the real case scenario of the invisible annotation is probably some input fields that are like 0 pixel wide and high, so it's just on a screen, but it's never visible. It's never displayed to the user, and it's like triggered by some JavaScript on a side. So whenever we want to send keys to it or click on it, we don't want to wait for it to be displayed. Right, so these are annotation available for now in a Kotlinium framework. So with this set of tools that Kotlinium framework provides us, it's fairly easy to develop and maintain the tests. Okay. Also, there's some like trick and hint from me. Keep in mind that filling password and showing it on the final reports is not advisable because it exposes some sensitive data. So instead, going like fill username and fill password for the Tom Smith, we can just put those two functions into one and just display this. This function that will not expose our password to the end user or just anyone who reads our test report. So let us create the function called fill credentials for user, and name will be provided, right? And here we want to fill username with the name provided and fill password with basically the secret password from here. Now, to make it even more secure, we can just encode it with base64 and decode it on demand when we want to just read the value of it, or even provide it as the property here directly from the Maven goal. It's up to you, probably. But anyway, now having this fill credential for user method defined, let us go back here and just remove this and fill credential. How did I named it again? Fill credentials for user Tom Smith method will be used instead of those two. Now, were we to run it again with the headless mode activated, let us see the results of it. Now, after the test will run, I'll move to the last part of this demo, which is parameterized tests, because sometimes we want to run the same test for a lot of examples. Um, let's say like two values will be provided, like here the username, which is Tom Smith, and some wrong password or some role of the Tom Smith. We'll just try to do it right now. Right, just let us see the summary. It's opening a new tab again. Uh, as you can see, there is no password apart from no, there's actually no password visible. Uh, okay, anyway. So now instead of showing the password, we just have the field credentials for user method, which fills them both. Um, and also, yeah, there were no two screenshots taken, as there is just one method in the test visible. So it will take screenshot for each step defined here, and not just the insights of the method. Just a quick reminder. So, okay, now let us just parameterize this test. So we will be able to run tests mm, for multiple cases. So let us do it like parameterized test. It all comes with the JUnit 5. Good. Now let us define the source of the parameters. In my case, it would just be CSV source. And how do you provide those data is just a string separated with commas, just like comma separated values, right? That's the abbreviation here. So it's gonna be what? It's gonna be Tom Smith. Yeah, I just copy it here, and the password for it will be the super secret password, right? Cool. Okay, so that's the source of our data, and what we can do now is simply add those two strings here. So it will be username string and then some password string provided. Okay. So now instead of filling credentials for user, we can just create field credentials for username. Okay, and now if you want to run this test again, it will take all the values provided here, like in those pairs, right? It will map them, Tom Smith to the username and super secret password to the password, and it will run the tests. You will see in a minute. Hopefully I did all correctly. Okay, there's no failures. Let's see. Yep. As you can see, it exposes also some password, but it was just simple example. It doesn't necessarily have to be a password. Password can be just hidden in some based 64 decoded value in our project. It can be any role or something. Just plain example. Uh, we don't really care about the password here now. So what we can see is that CSV value was passed to the test case, and for each there was it was mapped to the properties we are using. So if we had more values here, so for example, Tom's new super secret password and some other username and password, it will generate uh, two reports for each. It will be the same test run, but with a different set of properties. So it's pretty cool. So let's talk about some disadvantages of this Kotlinium framework now. Uh, well, basically, it's still in alpha or beta, let's say. So it's not complete. As I mentioned before, the UI is still very simple. I believe it should have some more features like number of tests passed and test failed, some execution time, which is probably can be evaluated based on those timestamps, and test passed as well. Um, so it's doable, but it requires some more work. So if you feel like you can help me with developing the Kotlinium framework, it will be very much appreciated. Uh, so just to finish the demo, let's go to the summary template. It's it These are templates for our test reports. So as you can see, it contains some percent encoded values which are replaced with correct values as the tests are run. There is some report builder for it. I will not go into details because this video is already very long and it would exceed the topic of the video. But if you are curious about how it works, I can surely just show you the insights of the project, and you can help me out with it just to make it a little bit better. The biggest disadvantage I see right now is the lack of parallel uh, parallel uh, wo- parallel test execution. Forgive me, because the all tests share just one what is it? Just one driver instance. Let me just quickly find it. Where is it? Oh, here. So before each test, there is a driver initiated with those all properties. So I believe it should be like one driver per test instance, and it will enable us to run those tests in parallel. Um, because now it lacks this possibility, um, and I believe it's very crucial for rapid test execution. Well, anyway, that's it for today. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments below the video or anything. You can also mail me or find me on GitHub, probably. I'll try to reach you all, guys, if you wish to know more about the project. So yeah, see you around, I guess. Bye.